What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Onyx Report's Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope all is well. Hope your life is going well. Your day is flowing well. Please like, share, subscribe, and join the channel so you can help us continue to do what we do. And much of what we do is to kind of highlight the experiences of black men, look at the world from a vantage point of black men, and really help to kind of frame black male life. Now, some of these instances apply to gender across the board, and this is definitely one of them. As a matter of fact, both teachers are Caucasian, but the reason we look at these is because we notice there's a clear difference in how men and women are even described in these circumstances, let alone sentenced when caught. And many of us didn't even until recently believe that this happened to any great extent. I even remember a skit on Saturday Night Live where some of the women comedians were kind of jokingly dismissing the rape of young boys by laughing about, their hygiene, pimples, and basically the underlying, theme of the joke was this really doesn't happen much because grown women, are above such things. But week after week, in the last year, you guys have seen me put these kind of cases up, and I think it's necessary. Because I think it's well past time that we understand these situations beyond fiction, and we really begin to deal with the realities of what people actually experience. So, this is a piece you can find in fox26houston.com entitled "Ex-Tumble Teacher Arrested, Accused of Having Up to 3-Year Sexual Relationship with Underage Student." Sexual relationship. Word. That's it? That's what it is? Okay. So, you telling me 30-year-old male teacher, 15-year-old girl, that's a sexual relationship? Or is it labeled rape? Anyway, it reads, a former Tumble teacher has been arrested and charged for having an inappropriate sexual relationship with one of her students. The woman was a former teacher at Tumble Intermediate, a school for 5th and 6th graders. Authorities arrested 31-year-old Marka Lee Bodine on Saturday, charging her with continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14. Now, what is under the age of 14? 13 at most. So they don't actually say that, right? But 31-year-old teacher at a 5th and 6th grade school having sex with a 13-year-old boy. But anyway. So Bodine was arrested and booked into Harris County Jail, but records indicate Bodine has made bond, which was set at $100,000. It was definitely a cry for help. He had reached out to a school and he had reached out to the police department as well. So I think he just became overwhelmed with it and reached out to us, said Tumble Police Chief Jeff Burt. See, a lot of people don't want to realize that, as much as we fetishize these kind of scenarios, whether in casual conversation or in porn, the reality of it is, you got grown men that have enough trouble dealing with these grown women in the first place. You mean to tell me a 13-year-old boy is going to deal with it? If you are a man who's ever broken up with a woman or had a divorce, you know how difficult women could be. Place all that expectation on a 13-year-old boy. Because it doesn't usually end with sex. Usually, many of these women in these positions of authority who are exploiting those under their care are demanding emotional presence of some sort. These boys are not equipped to deal with that. One of the things we find when you start to look at some of the studies regarding this is boys who experience this type of sexual exploitation, this type of rape, they have the same kind of emotional and psychological responses girls do. They're just not considered. It's not considered that they're supposed to, right? They're supposed to like it because they have penises, and as long as penises have a hole to be pushed into, there's no problem. But that's not realistic, and it's untrue, especially when you're talking about boys who are still developing, and I don't mean just in terms of their physical development. Now, this was something that I didn't really have much of an appreciation for until I had a son, and I got to watch him grow. And I got to hear the things that came out of his mouth at different ages. And I really began to understand developmentally what a child goes through. I mean, we've all gone through childhood. You see it through your own eyes. But when you have a chance to raise a child, I mean, you see this baby that you're holding in your hands before it can form words, and you watch it grow. You watch him tell his first lie. You watch him have his first crush. You watch him form thoughts about the world. By the time he's 13, if he has a 31-year-old woman making demands of both his body and his emotions, they're a lot more vulnerable than people want to think. Even they are more vulnerable than they think. And some boys have, there have been a few films that have kind of recently dealt with it, but at the end of the day, what you're talking about is an emotional investment that boys are too young to fully understand. Especially if they think they've fallen in love and this is the one, and you got all those kind of questions. And it appears to be such from their vantage point. She's 30 and she wants him. All of that to some people sounds real cool, but in reality, it's really a form of exploitation of our boys, right? Okay, so Burt says the evidence shows the sexual abuse went on for several years. Most of the investigation indicates it's been about 2.5 to 3 years, both social media, text, and other forms of evidence. And it does appear that this is one of those cases where grooming of the child was involved. In other words, getting the person to feel trusted initially. Yeah, that's bad English. All right, so getting the person to feel trusted initially. Our big concern from the police department right now is to ensure that we all have the evidence of the case, but to ensure there's no other children involved. Legal analyst Chris Tritico said continuous sexual abuse of a child is an enhanced first-degree felony charge. If convicted, Bodine could face a stricter minimum punishment with no parole. That's a first-degree felony offense, but it's a hybrid, if you will, because the minimum punishment is 25 years in prison, and that's up from a regular first-degree felony, which would be 10 years in prison. The jury doesn't have to be unanimous. The jury doesn't have to have a unanimous verdict on the dates of the sexual abuse, just unanimous that it occurred, and that seems to lessen the burden of proof for the state, but that's what the law currently says Tritico, right? Interesting. But this isn't an isolated case, right? We have 2 of them this week that kind of fell in together. And I thought instead of doing separate videos, why not just push them together, because they're really very similar, right? This one comes out of New York Daily News, and it's entitled, Texas Teacher Arrested for Alleged Sexual Relationship with Students. A Parker County, Texas 5th grade math teacher was arrested for having an alleged sexual relationship with a male student that began when he was 15. Now notice you're starting to see this 5th and 6th grade narrative, right? Usually around 4th is when you start to see these young boys start to transition into, some early stage of adolescence, or not adolescence, but, kind of teenage, tween, if you will. They start to develop. But 15, they're very malleable. They're very controllable, especially by adult women. So a lot of this has to do with the ability to inflict power on young boys who are on some level just transitioning into a point where they can perform sex acts, right? This is a power dynamic at play. This is why you don't hear as many of these cases happening as much in later years. It does happen, don't get me wrong, but there's a particular reason that we're talking about 5th and 6th grade. They're just at the point where they can sexually perform, but they're still children mentally and can be manipulated as such. This is a power push, on many of these women's behalf. And you'll find that a lot of these women are married, and they're married to men that they cannot control in the same kind of way. But I digress. So on Friday, Parker County sheriffs arrested 43-year-old Misty Lorene Cato, right, and charged her with second-degree improper relationship between educator and student. Her bond was set by a judge at $100,000. It's a shame anytime we have to investigate these types of cases, said Parker County Sheriff Russ Authier. It's imperative that our children attend school in a safe environment. Educators play a vital role in that safe environment, and have a duty to protect our children, right? According to the sheriff's office, Cato admitted to having sexual relations with the student, even though she was fully aware of his age. On a voice recording, she can be heard saying she has been in love with the student for 4 years. The student involved in the investigation has been offered counseling at the Parker County Child's Advocacy Center, where his healing can begin, Authier added. The investigation is still ongoing and will also be taking place in nearby Tarrant County, where other incidents allegedly occurred. Now, one of the things that that kind of problematizes these dynamics is if and when these women become pregnant, they're usually able to get child support from the child that they violated. And who actually pays that? Usually it's parents, right? So these become exploitive dynamics on a number of different fronts, and yet it's something that many of us, or many, have gotten comfortable with, and it is not limited by race. I report on cases as they come across my desk, but I've seen them happen with white and black, right? So this is not limited by any measure on the basis of rape. It's more a matter of who is reported upon. And when it comes to boys being violated, that's not always considered a front page issue, but it is at the Onyx Report, and we are going to talk about it. All right, y'all. So I hope everybody's well. Hope you enjoy your day, and we can actually begin to generate a conversation about how to protect our boys from this type of exploitation, this type of violation, and call it what the hell it is: rape. All right, y'all. Peace.